Yo, Olivia, what's going on? Thanks for coming on the D Green Show. How are you doing?
What's going on, Dee? Thank you for having me. Yeah, I'm doing good. I'm excited to be here.
Of course, of course. So I know we said that obviously we're gonna do like business mindset, but knowing us is probably will turn into some laughter. so
Yeah.
so before we go like deep into anything, right? Briefly explain like quote unquote like what you do. Like maybe right for people that are like watching on YouTube or listen to the podcast, if they want to like look you up while they're listening, they have an idea of what you do and maybe if that's something that they would be interested in looking into other than just listening to like the episode.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I'd say the simplest way to explain it is I help other business owners, usually online coaches or agency owners, increase their profits and save them time. So I'm helping the CEO get out of the day to day. I'm helping them build a team so they can get results without them having to work all of the time. And I help them increase their profits as they scale. So usually it's six-figure business owners that want to reach seven figures and still be very profitable. So that's the simplest way to explain it.
Is there like a certain country of people that you're working with, or is it like kind of all over?
It can be all over. I'd say mainly US, but like I have some clients in Australia, I have some clients in the UK, like things like that. So just wherever really. Some people in Europe. But yeah, it's mainly in the US, which is part of why I moved here. But yeah.
That's dope. So like one thing I really want to do like on this show, like doing these podcasts, like before when I was doing them, it was more like, okay, what is it that you do? And then like drop some tips, drop some gems. People can get that. It's kind of like a sample of like what you do. Are you providing value? And what I felt like would be more beneficial is like talking more about like the journey that people are on and like how they've overcome it and like the mindset, those important types of things. And then if people are interested in that person, they can go to their own social media and check it out. And I think that does two things. For me, it helps me attract like people that have that mindset, right? That's who I'm looking for. And then like if it's a business owner, they're looking for like those people typically as well. So one thing that I think is super cool that you recently did, right, is that you just moved from the UK to the US. So
Hmm.
how long? Like, I know you had lived in the U.S. before. When was that?
So I was there for 3 months last summer. So like July, it was like July to October last summer. I was living mainly in San Diego, and then at the beginning of this year, I lived in Miami for 2 months. But like
Oh
that
wow! I
was
didn't know.
just it was just yeah, it was just temporary. Like I hadn't been able to permanently move yet. So when I moved to Chicago 2 months ago now, like that is permanent. So.
One thing I think is interesting is like as you get around a certain group of people, it's interesting to see the things that we say just about. Because we'll be like, "Oh, I was just there for like 2 months," and then I say that sometimes, yo, like my family, my wife's family, like they can only really, if they work, they only go on vacation for like 2 or 3 days, like out the whole year. And we'll be like, oh, I was just there for like 2 months. That's just like a short little trip. That was like at the very, very beginning of the year.
Mhm. So I went to the US on like 28th of December, flew to Vegas, New Year's Vegas with the friends. So I did that. I went to Vegas. I was there for like just under a week, and then I flew straight to Miami where I stayed for about 2 months. And then I did a weekend in Chicago in February, and that was like my first experience of Chicago winter. And I was obviously not like well dressed for it because I was spending most of my trip in Miami, and I was like,
Yeah.
"Holy no, that really like it because like, you think the UK is cold. Like people tell me like you'll be fine. You're from the
Yeah,
UK.
that's what I'm thinking. When you said
Oh,
that, I'm like, yo, you're from UK. Like,
it's a different level of cold. It's a different level of cold. I try to say it in Fahrenheit, but I think what is it like 30 Fahrenheit is like 0
yeah,
Celsius.
around. Yeah.
Yeah, around that. So in the UK, like it's rare for it to get much colder than 30 Fahrenheit. Like
Oh,
some
yeah. Chicago, it'll go like negative like 10, 20 like Fahrenheit.
Yeah, negative Fahrenheit. Like I can't even imagine. It was
Yeah,
10 Fahrenheit when I was here in February, and I had
yeah,
this like
different.
cropped puffer jacket. That was the warmest thing I had, and
You had a cropped.
it was the only thing because I was in Miami most of the time.
Hey, it's not cold on Instagram, so it's fine. Dang, yeah,
Yeah,
it's a different
I
flow.
didn't. I don't think I took one picture on that Chicago trip. It was for my friend's birthday, and it was very much like we're in and we're out, like we're celebrating, and then I'm leaving because it's so cold.
Dang, that's crazy. So, and then prior to that, you lived in the States in 2021, right? Last
Yeah.
year. And
Hmm.
that was your first time going to the States, or you have been before?
No, I've been before. So how old was I? Maybe when I was like 14, 15. I came for 3 weeks. I went to New York, and then was it 3 weeks? No, it was like 10 days. It was 10 days.
It was like a
I went,
vacation.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It was for skiing. So I went to New York for a couple days, and then I went to Vermont and I went skiing. And yeah, that was it. So
And
I'd
then,
never been for business purposes until last year.
where were you living last year? You said, where were you living last year again? In California, right?
Yeah, San Diego.
And so when you were living out there, you had your own business or you're working with someone else? I remember you telling me a little bit of this before.
So I was like working very closely with like one client in particular, and that's why I was mainly out there because I was helping him with his business, and I
Ah,
was
okay.
seeing, is there potential for us to work together deeper? Like, is there potential for us to, actually have a business partnership? So that's why I was spending a lot of time out there.
I like how you just like brought the glasses out, but like didn't even put them on.
Yeah, it's an accessory thing. And I know this video is making me feel like I'm wonky. Like,
So, so when you're working with this guy out in Cali, is that where you got the skills to help people with like the automation portion, or did you already know that and that's how you ended up working with him? And then at some point you just ended up like going out on your own. Like how did that happen?
well, I've been working with this guy for like, you know, uh, a year to 18 months, like prior before I went out to California. And so,
Oh,
like,
okay.
during that time is when I did develop a lot of those skills. So I figured out quite a lot of stuff before because I had when I first started in entrepreneurship, I had like 3 businesses that didn't take off, but like I learned shit doing that. Right. So I did Amazon FBA, I did YouTube automation, I had a Facebook ads agency. So I did those 3 things, and I
You
learned
were
a
like
lot of things.
10 when you started these or what?
I think I was like 18, 19 when I did these. I did them very quickly, closely together. And I still have like inventory from the Amazon store like back at my house in the UK because the listing kept getting taken down. So I've just got these units of they were like these little spy cameras. They were selling so well on the
Big
because
camera?
yeah, let me I can explain. So there's this software that you can use to find like the winning products on Amazon basically. It's called
Right, right,
Jungle.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, Jungle Scout, if you've ever seen it. So you can see like what is selling a lot of units, but what is there like not much competition of. And these spy cameras, like people were doing like 60, 70, 80 grand a month, and there really weren't that many listings. So I was like, bet, let's go into the spy camera business.
Wait, wait. How much are these cameras? Like how much do they cost?
They were like $25 each
And then
to
like
buy.
where would you
And then
where
you
where
can
do you
sell
put them? Are they big, small? Like where do you where
small.
would
Like the box was probably, just like this big. And I made like
yeah,
my own branding. I made my own logo. Like it was super cool. If I ever show you the box, like I
yeah,
have
you
a
have
branded
to.
box. It's so cool. I'll send you a picture
You have it
anytime.
there where you're at right now.
No, I don't think I have it here. Maybe I have a picture. I might have a picture on this phone. It would take me a while to find, but I can send it you after if you
Yeah,
want
yeah,
to
yeah.
add
And so, dang, the thing I think about is like you said 60 to 70K a month selling these things people are doing,
it.
and they're
Mm-hmm.
25. That's a lot of people spying on people. Bro, I feel like at this point I'm like,
25 to buy, but you can sell them for like 50, 60,
but
$70. So like the
still,
margin,
that's like a lot of
is
people.
good.
It's like the
Yeah,
chances of you going to somebody's house and they probably having one of these somewhere is probably like high at this point. All right. So
yeah,
anyway, so you get into this. That's what you were like 18 at this time.
like 18, 19, something like that. 18, about to turn 19, I think. Yeah, yeah, we'll go with
Did you
that.
ever use them to spy on anyone?
No, no, I didn't.
Stop
I had
it. There's no way. Really?
no one to spy on.
Not even like
Yeah.
a friend or like a YouTube prank or a TikTok or
Okay.
nothing?
Okay, so it was during the pandemic. So it's like I wasn't trying to get into anyone's house to spy
Oh
on
yeah,
them.
true, 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 true. Yeah, there's like can't go anywhere. No one's doing anything. Okay, okay. But you still have some inventory. So if you know Olivia, be careful.
Buy them off me. Look, if you want to spy on someone, I'll give you a good price. I'll give you a wholesale price.
So so at some point you had these three businesses. You're like, this is not really working out. This is not maybe not what I want to do. And then you come across this guy in California and you start working with him. But at this, you're still in the UK at this time.
Yeah.
And that's where you learn like automation, or like how did you learn like what you're doing now?
It's not like he taught me. It was kind of like, okay, so I had the Facebook ads agency business was like the third one I had out of the three. And I realized like to get really good at this, I have to be good at sales. Like I have to be able to bring on clients. So I started asking like all my friends from the internet that were really good at sales. I was like, where did you learn sales? Like who taught you? And they put me in contact with this guy in California.
Ah,
So I did one of his training programs and I started to get better at sales. I started to get really good at it. I did some like private coaching with him and then he asked me if I wanted to be on his team, like helping him with sales, helping him with other areas of the business. So I was like, okay, that sounds good. Like, let's do that. This guy had a really good reputation. Like, he'd worked with people like Raphael Vargas, people like Rod Cleef, if you've heard of these people. Like, he'd done combined like 100 million in sales online by like building sales teams and coaching people. So I was like, this is a good person to learn from.
right.
So I thought anyway. So I did that. And then when I started working with him, pretty much it didn't take long, like maybe a month for me to realize like this guy is great at sales. He really knows what he's doing at sales. But when it comes to running the rest of the business, he doesn't really know what he was doing because he had been a salesman for about a decade and he'd been a high ticket salesperson for a decade and he would come in and he would consult these teams and then he would just do that. Like he didn't need to build a team. He didn't need to get involved with systems, operations, like making it
Mm,
profitable. The thing that lit him up was like making sales. That's what he wanted to do. That's what he was good at. So that's pretty much what he wanted to do. And I could see like the money was coming in, but then like there's a whole bunch of things that need to happen after the sale. Like the client needs to get, serviced, but you need to create a really good experience. So not only does the client like get the service, so they actually feel good and they want to keep working with you. You need to build a team. Like if you want to scale this thing, you need to hire salespeople, you need to hire messengers, you need to do all of these different things. And he just like for one reason or another just didn't really want to do that, wasn't skilled at doing that. So I taught myself how to do that. And I had bought like lots of other coaching programs at this point. So I knew what I was doing. Like I had done aspects of it in my other business. Like I had already hired people. So I knew what to do and I basically just did it on his business, if that makes sense.
yeah.
And yeah, so I helped him like stop doing sales teams. I helped him build a sales team. Like we had messengers. I built all their training, built it out, and then I was doing the sales for a while because the guy like he lost his voice at one point. He lost his voice. Like imagine a salesman like losing his voice. So I just did the sales for a while and I would do the other thing. I would build out the delivery, I would build out the onboarding, I would, basically everything else, managing the finances, all of that stuff. So it was kind of like I was basically his COO, and like just for ease of sake, like when we would be on calls with people and introduce ourselves to people, like we'd just say like we're business partners, even though we weren't officially. And so
Ah,
like when going out to California, it was kind of to see like, do we actually want to
want to
work
do
together?
this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do we want to do this? Yeah. So
Sip tea. So so you're out there. How long were you out there?
I was out there for 3 months.
Was that just because of the like the visa situation, or was that because like by that time you were just like, hey, this is not really going to be like exactly what I'm looking for?
It was because of the visas. Yeah. You couldn't
Ah,
stay
okay.
like 3 months.
So at some point you realize like, hey, I want to do this. Like I want to just go on my own, or this is not a good fit. Or how did you end up going from okay, I'm working with this guy to having your own
Yeah.
business?
So, I mean, I learned a lot from this guy, and I'm super grateful for many of the things that he did teach me. Right, it built me into who I am today. But it got to the point where I just felt like I was the one that was doing like 80 to 90% of the work, but
Mhm.
the like compensation was not reflecting that. Even if, because like technically it was his business still, right?
Right, of
And
course,
like
yeah.
we were like business partners, like he just didn't want to make it equal, and I was like, okay, I'm doing the majority of the work here, the pay doesn't reflect that. There were other factors involved, like I just felt our values didn't align, like there were just some like personal issues as well. I was like, it's just a mismatch of values here. I'm just gonna go do this by myself, like I can, it's gonna be a lot easier for me. So that's what I did essentially. I was like, business partners can be great, but like you have to have the same values. And like the reason it worked for so long was because like we did have different skill sets. And I think that's why a lot of people make mistakes when they
They
have a
find like the
business
same
partner.
exact person, right? That it's like it's like a duplicate of yourself.
Exactly, exactly. And that's why it worked well with us, because we definitely were not like duplicates of each other. We were definitely very different. Like I was systems. I've like growing up, I've always been able to see the patterns in things. Like I've always been like subconsciously systemizing things before I even realized. And then like doing business, I realized like, oh, I've actually been doing this all along. So I've been able to like refine what I'm naturally good at. And then he's always been like the talker, the sales guy, like that kind of thing. So it worked, and that's why it worked for so long, and we were able to have success, and like we were able to get him to like 100K cash collected months, like 150 revenue, like things like that. And we only had a small team, and we kept it very profitable. So like it was very good. But at the end of the day, I was like, I want to do this by myself. Like I want to have my own autonomy. I want to be responsible for my own business, because essentially like I was his COO. I felt like it just wasn't an equal partnership, and I knew that I had the skills to do my own thing.
So you can if you want to, but you don't have to. That's not really the point of my question. But if you want to, you can. When you say like the pay wasn't reflecting that, right? Was it okay? I moved to the US from the UK. I'm doing all this work and I don't even have enough money to like pay like the rent and like basic stuff. Or was it like, okay, I'm getting paid like a good amount of money, but it's just not reflecting like what I like the amount of money that I'm like reflecting like the effort that I'm putting in.
Mm-hmm. I was making a good amount of money. I mean, like I was making 10K months when I was like 21. Like stuff even when I was still in school, right? So stuff like that. Like I was making good money, but it was just the fact like if I disappeared tomorrow, the business would be gone. Like it's not like he
Right,
would.
right, right.
It wasn't like he was doing most of the stuff and then I was just like supporting or whatever. It was like I was doing the majority of the stuff. And like for that kind of stuff, it's like, it's going to be 50-50 of like a profit split, or it's not worth my time, to be
Here,
honest.
here's the reason why I asked that. And like I was saying, I want this podcast. Like I think like as a coach, right? Like you're a coach, business entrepreneur. I think a lot of the content that we're putting out on social media is helping our audience with that specific thing, right? So you might do a lot of stuff about sales, automation. I'm doing stuff about content creation. But I was thinking like, how can I help people change their mindset? Because like that's really how we have these skills, but thinking differently is how you are going to level up, right? So I have friends, you probably have friends that are maybe working at a as low as of like a maybe like a McDonald's or even like a career like after college, and they're not even making maybe enough to barely even get by, and the people aren't respecting them, but yet they stay in it year after year after year after year after year. And here you are, like you said, making 10K months, still could stay there and like make way more money than most people that everything is going good, but you still say like this is not what I want to do. I'm still going to go take a risk, start my own business. Maybe I never make that much money ever again in my life. What was like the mindset shift that you had to have, or what was going on in your mind that made you say, okay, even though things are going good right now, I'm gonna take a risk and go do my own thing?
Mm-hmm. Well, there's a couple different things then I want to mention, like based on what you said. So when I first started working with this guy, I was getting paid like $15 an hour. I was barely making any money when I first started working with this guy. And I was able to prove to myself how valuable I was, but also show him and the rest of the market that I was so valuable. And the thing is, if I hadn't said, like, okay, I've produced this result, I know that this is worth X amount of dollars, this is now what I expect my pay to be. Otherwise, I'm gonna go do something else. Then I never would have got a better pay. And like, people are afraid to do that. And the thing, and like, yeah, it's been scary. And I'm not gonna act like, you know, I'm some like amazing person who's always gonna be like, this is my worth or I'm leaving. Some people don't even like that mindset. But the reason that I have been able to do that, wait, let's backtrack a second. It took me a while to get to that point. And I stayed in this business partnership way longer than really I should have based on where the skills were, because I was secretly afraid that if I did it by myself, I just like wouldn't be able to do it. I was
Yeah.
secretly afraid that I didn't have the value. Like I was secretly afraid of that. And it just got to the point where, you know, I just knew that I did. And like it was hard to get to that point. And even then it's like it took me a while to be like really standing in it, but I just had to show the evidence to myself. I think a lot of people as well, it's like if you're working in a job that doesn't even allow you to like grow your skill sets right now, like say you're working at McDonald's, you almost feel like you're just a cog in a machine, and so it's kind of hard for you to like present the evidence to yourself that you are worth a certain amount, because that's kind of what I was able to do. I was able to present evidence for myself from like the past few years of working with him, like I've done this, I've done this, I've done this, so I know that I can do this for other people and I'm valuable enough. So then I was able to leave. But there was once a time where I had never made any money. Like those first 3 businesses, I never made any money. And at the end of the day, when I decided to leave, it wasn't, you know, it's not like, it wasn't because like fear of like never making any money again. That wasn't why I wanted to
Right.
stay. But the thing is, it's like I've always kind of thought you can make as much money as you want. You can make as much money as you want, and like anyone can.
Well, where did
100% I
that
believe.
where did that mindset come from? Like parents, books, like where did you even get that?
I'd say probably books, sort of parents, but like
You had to like
not.
kind of get that on your own. It wasn't something you just like grew up with. At some point in your life, you're like, all right, I want to start thinking differently, or you were introduced to books, mentors, influencers, whatever, and that's how you kind of
Yeah.
developed that.
It was like I knew there were people out there. Like growing up, I had a nice lifestyle. Like my parents did well, and my dad was like high up in corporate stuff like that. So like I was exposed to the nice things of life, but it doesn't mean like my parents always had money. Like my dad liked to show on the exterior that he had money, but like interior there wasn't actually any money, right?
Mhm.
So I could see the lifestyle, and I knew I wanted that lifestyle, and
Uh-huh.
I I saw other people like online. I always knew that wealth was a possibility, right? I always knew like wealth was a possibility for people. I was lucky to be well traveled when I was little. So like I saw all these different things. I saw wealthy people, and I knew that it could happen for people,
Nice.
basically.
So your mind was like already open to it. So like, this is this possibility. I found the possibility once by working with this guy, and I'm obviously smart. I'm obviously bringing things to the table. Either I can stay here and provide value, but if I do, like that needs to be shown in the pay, or I know that there's other ways to do it. Like I've seen people do it. So if you don't basically
Yeah.
value what I'm doing, I can go somewhere else and do it, or at least try
Right.
to.
Yeah, and I think it's like from growing up, I always knew like the wealth is a possibility, and then from that moment, I decided like I was gonna have it one way or another. Like it had always been a thing where I knew that when I expand on the time horizons, I always knew like at some point this is gonna happen for me. So I kind of already
Mhm.
made that decision a long time ago that it's gonna happen for me. It's just a matter of like how we're gonna get there. And so like working with this guy, I never saw just working with this guy and like being his COO. I never saw that as the end game. Like I always knew I'm gonna have my
That was
own
like a
business.
stepping stone, kind of.
It was always a stepping stone. It was always a stepping stone because I knew in the beginning, like I needed to develop those skills. I needed to develop my network. I needed to develop my experience. And I think there's a few ways you can go about it when you first start. Like, you can just go all in on yourself. But if you do that, it does take longer for you to see results, I would say. Like, if you're like me, when you're starting, when you're like 18, 19, 20, you don't have any, like, I didn't even have a real 9 to 5. I had some waitressing jobs when I was growing up, but like I started all this whilst I was in uni, and then I made it so I didn't have to have a 9 to 5. Like, I kept doing this basically. So it's like you haven't had any real world experience. Like, you haven't even worked in a job and built a skill that you can now leverage to make money online. Like, there was none of that. So when you do that, you kind of have two options. It's like you can work for yourself, which I tried to do in the beginning with those first 3 businesses, which, they could have worked if I kept sticking at it. I 100% believe that. Like, if you keep sticking at anything long enough, it's going to work. But at the end of the day, I saw this, I knew deep down, like, I needed a mentor. I kept reading the books and there were like 2 overwhelming themes: get good at sales, get a mentor. They were the overwhelming themes of like every single
Yeah,
book I was reading. So I was like, okay. And then this guy fell into my life who was
that
great
has
at
both.
sales and wanted
Yeah.
to be a mentor. So I was like, perfect. The universe is sending me signals right now. So,
Well,
so I
so do you guys? I don't know if you guys have this saying in the UK, but I know you're like familiar with like American culture. But like, do you have this saying that's like the straw that broke the camel's back, or are you familiar with that term? No.
no.
Wow. So what does that even sound like? First of all, like when I say that.
I have no idea. Like, there was a breaking point for the camel. I don't know.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. So it's like in that situation with this guy, was there like a situation that was like, all right, like this is it, like I'm gone, or was it just like a, hey, I've been thinking about like I'm worth more, and then like now's a good time, like I'm just gonna tell him, and then like let me go start my own thing.
Yeah. So there was definitely a breaking point. There was definitely a breaking point, and yeah, I wasn't really gonna bring this up, but like I said, I've learned a lot from this guy, and I'm still grateful and appreciative to
Of course.
him, despite like the things that happened. But I had been wanting to leave for a while. There was some shady shit going on, basically. Like I said, values didn't align, basically. And so essentially, he owed me like 2 months of pay. And he was saying that he couldn't pay me, like he didn't have the money. And then he started to say that it was because, I hadn't actually done the work, I wasn't worth it, blah, 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 all of these different things.
Ah,
And similar thing had happened a few months before. Like, he owed me like 22K. He owed me 22K, and he was like, "Oh, I can't pay it you right now because I've just moved into this new penthouse." He had just moved into a new penthouse in Miami.
I can't
I've
pay you because I got to pay for my penthouse.
moved into a penthouse and I had to pay like, you know, 2 months of rent up front or whatever it was, and basically just telling me like all his expenses why he couldn't pay. And when that first happened, there were a couple of things at play. Like, first of all, like my confidence in myself just like wasn't there where I could stand up for myself. And second of all, it was also, if there was a fear that if I did stand up for myself, I wouldn't get that money. And I really wanted that money. So
Did you just do one of these kind of like, oh, okay, like I understand, like just let me know type of things, or what was your like response at that time?
I think the first time it happened, I think I was like, okay, well, you did know that you owed me this money. So like, it's not cool, but I do understand what's happened. Like, I understand what you're going through. So if you make sure it's paid by this date, like, it will be okay. That's kind of what I did. And he did pay me, but it was just frustrating because it's like I was still working for him and like he owed me like back pay and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Super frustrating. And then between that happening and then the next time it happening, like there was a lot of things that went on. And then the second time it happened, I was just like, I was done. I was so done at that point. I was just like, don't even give me the money. I said, I don't care if you give me the money, but I am not working for you anymore. I'm not working with you. I'm not doing anything. Like, I don't care. Give me the money. Don't give me the money. Because he was trying to like he still thought like the money had power over me and that he would.
Yeah. Like she's not gonna leave if I have this money and blah blah blah. You were in
Right.
the UK this time, or you were still in the States?
I just got back from the States.
Ah.
The States. And yeah, so I was like, I don't care, just give it me, don't give it me. And he eventually did give it me, but like,
You
you know,
initially
after
did what? How did
he
you word that?
eventually he eventually did give it me the money.
Give what? Say how are you saying it? I don't. I feel like I've never heard it worded like this.
Give it me.
Yo, no, I've never give it me.
What?
No. I've never heard it like that. I'm
I,
like, am I
I
wrong?
find it so funny whenever my American friends are like, huh, like why did you just say it like that? I'm like, what do you mean? Like this is the way this is how we say it.
We
Like
invented English. Don't tell me how to say it. We say it right. You messed up our language now.
exactly. I think there's this one that my friend always says. I'll just say she'll always call me out on it and I'm like, oh, I'll let you know how I'm getting on with it tomorrow. Like that's something that I'll say. And she's like, what? And I'm like, well, what would you like? What else would you say? And she's like, I'd just say I'd update you. And I'm
Yeah.
like,
Or like the other one is like you guys will be like, "How did you find it?" So like I'll be like, "Oh, I went to this cool coffee shop when I'm in London." They'll be like, "How did you find it?" I'll be like, "Oh, like my friend told me about it," or like Google Maps. And they're like, "What?"
that's not what we mean.
Like
That's not what we
that's
mean.
how I found it. And like, no, like, did you fancy it? I'm like, did I fancy it? And I'm like, oh, did I? Yeah, I liked it. I liked it. My bad. So, so, so the reason why I'm asking, right? I think you have some of these shows that I watched, which is cool, but it's like a little bit about like drama, and it's like, oh, like talk bad about this person, they owe you money. But the reason why I bring that up, and the reason why I think that's important, and maybe even the reason maybe why you went through it, is I know so many people that like they stay in that situation like years, like 5 years, 10 years, and it's like, bro, like why like you're like I wish my life was better. I wish I could do this. I wish I could travel. Wish I could make more money. But it's like you're staying in these situations that are not serving you. People are not respecting you, and it's like for what? And so I think it's cool for you to share what you went through because you're not like a 40, 50-year old woman that's like, well, I had all of this experience and all of this life, knowledge, and I was just like, I've done all of this. It's like I think it's like if you can show people like you can be 20, how old were you at the time? Like 21?
Yeah, I was 21.
Yeah, it's like if you can, and I think another thing that's cool, and I don't know for sure, like only you and him will probably know this for sure. I don't know if you yelled at him or keyed his car or anything like that, but it's like the way that you're explaining it now is like super respectful. So I would imagine either it was super respectful then or you just had a lot of time to grow. But it's like I think sometimes people think you have to be like I guess like a brat where it's like you didn't pay me $1 million to run your social media, I'm out. And it's like that's really not what you're saying. You're just saying like, hey, I know my worth, I know my value. I set like a boundary. The boundary was crossed. Good, like whatever how he feels, and like I'm moving on. And it's like I think more people like need to have this mindset. I see so many people that are just stuck in these opportunities. It's like you're so stressed that it's impacting your life, it's impacting your mental health, your physical health, your relationship with your spouse or your friends or your family. And it's just like, why? But like you said, money keeps so many people in these situations. And I'm like, it's not even a lot of money. Like
Right.
you're
Yeah.
getting stressed out mentally for 2 grand, 3 grand, for even 10 grand a month. It's not worth it.
Exactly. And the reason in the end where I was like, I don't even care if you give me money, it's like those last like probably 3 to 6 months, I was not happy with the person I was becoming. I was not happy with the person I was becoming because I developed such like an apathy towards doing the work. Like I didn't want to do the work because
Yeah.
all these negative connotations with it, right? So I was like forcing myself to do it, but I was like low key miserable the rest of the time. And I felt like I was doing all of this hard work, but I wasn't really getting anything from it. And so, like, just for my own self worth and like my own self image, I just knew that like, it was so bad for me. Like, it was so bad for me to be in that. So, when I was gonna leave anyway. I was gonna leave anyway. Literally a month before I was gonna have that conversation, and then something happened where he like met these new business partners and he wanted to start this new venture with them, and I was curious to see like what would happen. So I hung around basically, and I met these amazing guys in Miami, like amazing group of people. And I was so glad I did, because like I'd got to develop like friendships with them, and I'm still in contact with them now. So that was great, and I'm glad that I hung around for that. But I kind of like mentally checked out. But that's why. So when that happened, it was kind of just like a good reason to leave. It just made it easier for me to leave, because I think otherwise he would have made it more difficult. Like he would have not wanted me to leave, but
What were you
because of
doing in school at that time?
that, huh?
What were you going to school for at that time?
Science, pharmacology.
Yeah, so how does that play like into this like story? So you're like already making like good money, but you're going to school for it. You what did you say was science?
Pharmacology. So it's like how drugs work.
Pharmacology?
Yeah, how drugs work in the body. So like how they're metabolized, what illnesses they help solve, like stuff like that.
See, I'm kind of getting worried. Like you're studying science, pharmacology. You got these spy cameras, and this guy loses his voice. What's going on over there? So it's like you're gonna treat me right, or I know I have these cameras and I know how your body works.
He lost his voice, and he got his voice back like way before all of this happened. So
Yeah, as soon as that payment hit, his voice came back.
well,
So, so
I
what
finished
was it?
my degree. I finished my degree before I went out to America. Okay.
Ah, okay.
And then when I first got out to America is when he lost his voice, because he got COVID and he lost his voice. So like I had to go to Mexico for 2 weeks so I could even get into America, because it was during the pandemic. And that was like when he first lost. That was when he lost his voice, basically. So it was like 1 month I took over the business, basically just doing everything.
Oh wow. Why you're in Mexico?
Because I had to quarantine there before I could get into America. They weren't letting people in direct from the UK because of the
Oh yeah, that's
pandemic.
right. So what were you
So
thinking when you went to school with with that degree in mind that you were gonna do?
yeah, well, so I was very academic in school. I was always been like, get top grades, like play the system. I always had a dream of going to Oxford or Cambridge. Like I always wanted to do that. And I got an interview at Oxford, like I almost went there, but I ended up going to a university in London. And the reason I chose that degree, like it wasn't necessarily because I loved science. It was more because science was super logical. It was a yes or no answer. It was either right or wrong. And I knew if I studied that, then I could do really well on the tests. Because the way that it works in
Wait,
England is,
what?
yeah, well, let me explain. This is
I'm
a
gonna go
cheat
into
code.
this degree because if I do good on the test.
This is a cheat code if you're about to start college, okay? Especially in the UK. So the way it works in the UK is you can get a first, you can get a 2-1, a 2-2, or a third. And they're like the classifications of the degree. Okay? So like if you
Okay.
get first class honors, which means like you never got below a certain amount in your exams. First class honors is the best you can get. So I don't know what the system is in the US. Like, do you just get like
It's
a
like
star in
bachelors, masters. I don't know. Like, oh, we have like magna cum laude or
we still
something
have
like that.
bachelors. Yeah, so it's
Ah,
like you
okay.
have it will be a first class honors bachelor's, right? So
Oh
that's
yeah,
what
we
you'll
have
get.
like stuff like that. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but to get a first class degree means you have to get over 70% in all of your exams. Now, 70% seems like super achievable and super doable, except that the way that they're looking at it when they mark it. So if you are doing English, let's say you're studying English, so you're writing a lot of essays, the way that that marker is examining you, to get above 90% means that this has to be so good I could go publish this in a journal right now, and like people
Oh
would pay
yeah.
money for that.
And it
That's
can be
what above.
subjective too. It's like kind of based on that person that's grading it.
Exactly, like it's so subjective. So that's what 90% means. Like above 80% means like, oh, it's almost good enough to be published. Above 70% is like, this is perfect, no errors, but it's like not quite ready to be published, right? So you're playing in like a really high level of creating an essay here. And so the way I thought about it is like, if I do science, it's yes or no. Like it's right or wrong. It's still
Right.
right or wrong. So I can actually get 90% because it's factually all correct versus based on someone's interpretation. So it's like it's going to be so much easier for me to get a first. So that's why I chose a science degree.
And
So if
then
any
why would that matter? Why would it matter if you get the first or not? Like what were you thinking that's gonna help
I
you?
wanted it first. Like
So that was just like your main thing. You're like, even if I don't like this field, I just want to like get a high
I
graduate
knew
with like a
I knew that I could. Like I knew that I could. And so the fact that I knew that I could meant that I wasn't gonna do it and without getting it. Right? Like if I know that I can, I'm always gonna make sure it happens. But about like midway through my degree, I wanted to drop out and I wanted to do entrepreneurship full time. That's what I wanted to do. But
okay.
my mom did not want me to. Like she had, sacrificed a lot so I could go to university. And I understood that. And the fact that like I just, like I was good in school, like I knew what they wanted to pass an exam. Like that's all school is. It's just like learning like everything what I learned now is like everything in life is a system, like running a business is a system. There's certain things you have to do to make it produce the right output. School is the same thing. There's a certain system to passing the exams. There's certain things that they want you to say to pass the exams, right? And I figured that out like pretty early on. And so I was able to do well. So my mom was like, don't drop out because I want you to, she
So
felt
did
like
you end up getting it? Did you end up getting it?
what, the first? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got the first. I also got on the dean's list and I did this like whilst doing entrepreneurship. So, yeah.
So my question
But
is, being that your mom said that when you wanted to drop out, and then being that you kind of went into entrepreneurship, you're working with this guy, then you come from the States back to the UK and you're like, hey, I'm not working with this guy anymore. Was there any time where your mom was like, see, I told you like that was not the route to go. You need to go get a job, or were they more like supportive in your like direction you were going at this point?
well, she always like whenever I said like I wanted to drop out the degree, or even like now when I talk about it, people ask me like, was the degree worth it or anything like this? I always say like if I went back to being 18 and know what I know now, I never would have done it. Like I never would have done it, even knowing that I could get top grades. Like I never would have,
Mm.
because it's not useful. Like nothing I learned there besides like understanding everything as a system has
Being able
actually been
to poison people.
useful.
No.
Like not well, okay, I'd say the one useful thing from my degree is that no drug is really good for you. Like, this drug will cure this drug will cure that. All of the drugs have side effects. So everything you take, you just like kind of killing your body with another side effect, right? You take a drug to cure one thing, it gives you a different side effect.
Yeah,
It doesn't
that's
mean that I'm never gonna, take ibuprofen if I've got a headache, like I do. But you just have to be aware of that. So it was definitely very interesting. Like if you probably even so we studied illegal drugs as well. So like if you take illegal drugs right now, maybe you should go study pharmacology, and it's gonna put you off. So
so at what point at what point do you get back to the UK and you go, you know what? I can just do this on my own, start my own business.
yeah, I mean, so like there was kind of like an overlap where I started to do my own thing, but like even whilst I was working with this guy, I had my own personal brand. Like I was still making content. I had my personal brand because I always saw the value in having a personal brand, like positioning myself as like this person online. So I was always doing that in the background, and like people knew me in the industry. Like people knew that I worked with this guy. Like I would take a lot of calls with high level people that he worked with. Like, people knew me. So there was kind of overlap where I was like working with some other people whilst I was working with him. And then I kind of like transitioned myself out. So like after that happened, after I first stopped working with him, actually, I just had like a time to recalibrate myself. Like I just had a time to really sit and think of everything that had happened and like where I wanted to take things. And I think that was important because a lot of people will rush right into the next thing. So say they
Yeah.
come out of like a big event like this, they'll rush right into the next thing, and usually because of money, right? They're like, oh, I I need to make money now, like I need to rush right into the next thing. And sometimes like that's good to do, but you also have to like meet yourself where you're at. Like it'd been very emotionally draining working with this guy for so long, and I knew that I needed to like recalibrate myself, like who I wanted to be, the kind of business I wanted to build, and not like dragging in the values and habits from that business into my new business, right? So it's kind of like detoxing all of that and creating what I wanted it to be. And I think it's important to do that so you aren't like dragging your past into your future. That's how like so many people end up like just recreating the same thing over and over again, because
Right.
they're not aware of what even happened in the past that made it as it was, So
And
yeah.
so, what was the time difference between starting the business you have now and moving to Chicago?
Well, that was always going on in the background. So like
Ah,
moving to the States was always going on in the background. So I'd wanted to move to the States for a long time. Like when I was 17, I wanted to move to the
oh,
States. And
wow.
yeah, and when I was 19, like when I first started my first businesses, it was always like, I want to move to the US. Don't know how it's gonna happen, don't know when, but like I want to do it. And when I first made my first initial vision board, I was like, I'm gonna live in Dallas and like I'm gonna do all this stuff. And like,
Dallas?
yeah, I wanted to live in
I've
Dallas
never heard
because
anyone ever be like, "Yo, I really wanna move to the States, and I'm gonna go to Dallas."
so my criteria for a city was it's got to have an NBA team, it's got to have an NFL team, it's got to have skyscrapers. And then there was something about Dallas because barbecue, like I want that authentic barbecue. And then also Mark Cuban lives there, and
Facts.
I've been reading a lot about Mark Cuban during this time, and I was like, well, Dallas must be great for business. So that's why I was all thinking about Dallas, and
Like, I don't
I
wanna see no broke men running around. I wanna see Mark Cuban, NFL players, NBA players, and people eating barbecue.
exactly. So, but this was even before I had started a business, and I remember I was looking online, and I was looking at like how I could even move there, like if I could get a job, like what it would even be, because I wasn't even sure of like the time horizons for starting a business at this point. This was probably more like when I was 17. And so I was figuring things out. And then I started to get into business. I started to do like my first few businesses, and I realized like, everyone's in America, and I just kept having this intention like America, America, America. And then this guy who lived in America came into my life, and then that was like that seemed like a good way. You could get employment visas and stuff, but then I was like,
Right.
this is first of all, it's too slow. It's going to take 2 years just to even show that there's a job not fit for an American, a
Oh,
foreign.
yeah, I forget about all that.
2 years to even show that, and then it's like another year for the processing. So I was like, right, there's got to be another way around this. So I started looking into the business visas, and there are business visas. So essentially, if you've been doing business with America for a while, you can get a business visa, and it's pretty straightforward. But I hadn't been doing business with America like for long enough with the same LLC for that to qualify. So there's another option. So you can start an LLC, and then you basically have to invest funds into the startup of that business. You have to write a whole business plan, hiring plan. You have to show that you can hire people, so you're going to support the economy outside of just yourself. Like you have to hire a good amount of people and stuff like that. So that's the business that I went for. So I had to invest money into like the startup of my business that I'm doing now. Like the business I'm running now is like what I have the visa to do, right? So I had to invest money into that. I had to show like my hiring projections, who I'm going to hire like over the next 5 years, and all of that. So I've been doing that since like I started working with my lawyer in September, and it took us up until May, I think it was May, to even like get everything done, like get the investment expenditures,
Oh,
get
wow.
the plan together, get the cover letter, like, get everything together to even submit it to the embassy. So submitted that back in May. And then now, so then it took until May then I heard back from them probably like June to set the, and then the interview was in August. So I had to go down to the embassy in London, and you have an interview with them. And then on the interview, they either say, you've got the visa, you haven't got the visa. So went down. Luckily, they
You're
gave
like,
me
I
the
can
visa.
pass this. This is a yes or no. I know how to do this. I've done this before.
I was scared though. I was scared because they can. He was like saying that they could ask you weird questions, and like me trying to be the good student that I am. Like I'm
Like, do you have any
studying.
spy cameras?
I'm studying like every possible scenario, but it was so straightforward. Like the questions she asked me, it was super straightforward. So the basically like the business plan and stuff will do the heavy lifting for you. But like so long as you can articulate what she's asking you properly, then you're good. So yeah, I got my visa, and then like a week later, they took my passport and whatever, and a week later I got my passport back, and then I came to America. So yeah.
Congrats, congrats, congrats. So what do you've been there now, what, 2 months? Like
Yeah.
living. So
Mhm.
from your experience, and obviously it's like you've been to America like before you just moved. What do you like better about America than in the UK or Europe?
So there's a couple different things. So like the
Other
mindset,
than the men were great. Other than that.
that is actually a thing though, because like American men are much more outgoing, I find
Fact. I've
anyway.
heard that.
They're
I've
much
heard
more
that a
outgoing.
lot.
Yeah, that's a big thing that I wanted to move here, just because people are generally way more outgoing. Like a stranger will make a conversation with you, and I wanted to become more outgoing. So I was like, why not
Yeah.
go to a country where everyone is outgoing? Like in the UK, people are not going to be talking to you. Like a hard chance if like a guy is even going to come up to you at a bar, like even if he wants to, just because like that's not English culture. And there's just like something like so many English men, they just have this like timid way of flirting, and it's just so unattractive.
It's like it's good and bad. It's like we're more outgoing, but sometimes it's like way too outgoing. It's like, bro, like you should probably read the room and not have said that. But yeah, I've heard that when I'm in Europe and other places, it's like they're like, I'm sitting next to this guy winking at him and he still hasn't said anything to me. And it's like,
Yeah.
so all right. So other than that, like what is it? What are like the things that you're like, okay, this is what I like the most about being here in America?
So generally, there's just like way more money transacted here. Like going out for meals, like doing fun things. It's just like so much more of a thing here. Like people just seem like
Like they're
they're
more willing to go out and do things.
yeah. They're more willing to go out and do things, and maybe it's because of like the heavy consumerism here. Like there is obviously consumerism in the UK as well, but people they're just like more used to spending money, I would say.
Yeah.
Like yeah, they're just more used to spending money. Like it is the way of life. I want to do this, I want to do that. Like I'm gonna spend money and I'm gonna make it happen. And like maybe that just comes off, the American dream or whatever. But that I like that people want to do that. And then also the sports teams. Like I hate football in the UK, soccer. Like, no, it's so boring. It's so boring. But I love watching sports. And so
Oh man, they're gonna Andrew Tate you when you blow up. They're gonna be like, she was dissing our country, our sports. 2020, before she was a billionaire, she hated us.
I'm sorry, but it's just so boring. Like for the most of it, they're just kicking the ball back and forth. Like people say
So
something like
to maybe see, I'm like, bruh, Steph Curry is gonna score in one game more than your favorite soccer player is gonna score like in their whole life. Like you're literally just watching it like this, and you're like getting so excited for nothing to ever like. There's one goal. I don't know. I don't
that.
understand it, but it's big. So
I don't understand why it's big though. It's like you're lucky if like
if
so
anything happens,
if 5 goals get scored in one game, like that's wow, you're lucky. And a lot of times it's just 0-0. And it's cold, it's wet. They don't put on any entertainment. Like I went to a
that's
Bulls
so
game and
true.
there's so much entertainment. I'm like, yeah, they want my money to pay for these overpriced snacks. Like, yeah, they've built a whole brand off their, off the Bulls and whatever. They want me to buy their merchandise, but take my
It's
money.
like something is literally going on like every second. Like you're seeing a score or a dunk or a block or something like.
Exactly. And it's just so cool. Like the NFL games I've been to too. It's just like there's just an atmosphere. And when they do, because like obviously they take a lot of timeouts and stuff like that, but when they do stuff, you see some amazing stuff.
Yeah,
Like you
yeah.
see some really cool stuff. That's the thing, they're so technical. Like that's why all the positions are so specialized. So I think the sports is cool. And generally, I think
Oh,
generally the
so how? So when you were in the UK, you were watching US sports a lot because like it's on a way like that's like at like 3 in the morning for you or something like that.
yeah,
So
so
you
I
just
would
stay up and
record
watch them or tape them or what?
I would record it, or I would watch. So on Netflix, if you've seen the All or Nothing things, like
Ah, okay.
there's like NFL All or Nothing seasons, and so it's like they follow a different team in the NFL for a whole season, and you see like the stuff going on in the background. And that was so cool. I loved that. And then just watching things like Last Chance U, and then like all the documentaries on like Michael Jordan and stuff like that. I would watch
Oh
all
yeah,
of
Last Dance. So
them.
someone here in Hungary the other day, they're like, when I went to the US, the thing that surprised me the most is like you guys actually have cheerleaders and they actually look like that. And I'm like, I thought that was like a normal thing. They're like, no, like we're like, why the heck do you guys have that? Why do they look like that? I'm like, that's so funny. Like, yeah, it's
Yeah,
definitely it's a
like at
big
the
deal.
Bulls, there were the Lovables. I don't know if you've ever heard of the Lovables, but it's like
Nah.
the Chicago Bulls. I don't if I'm not sure I would even call them cheerleaders, but like
Are they
dance
is
squad.
that like a play on word? Like the love of bulls?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Ah,
You got it.
okay, okay.
I saw that and I was like, wow, this is actually cool. Maybe sometimes I think this kind of thing is like trashy or whatever, but I'm actually digging it. There was just like an atmosphere going on, and I wanted to be one of the Lovables. Do you know what I'm saying?
Hey, go do it. So
It was
here's my
fun.
question. With like all right, so you have like this career, right? Or this not career, this I guess you could say career, right? This path that you've been on, this journey that you've been on of working with different people, doing different things. You started realizing over time that, I have like this value that I'm bringing to the table business wise. It needs to match with the pay, or it needs to at least lead me somewhere that I'm going to where that it's worth maybe taking the less pay. Confidence starts increasing and like that's taking you to new levels. Now we were kind of talking about this one. I think we were like FaceTiming the other day or something. I can't remember. But it's like as now you're in Chicago, 22, 22, 23.
22,
You
yeah.
does that same confidence and mindset uh translate over to like dating, do you feel like?
I
Or
think
is it like
so.
a totally different thing?
I think that it's all connected, right? So I would say like the confidence and then the standards, right?
Yeah.
So I stopped accepting like shit standards in business. Like I stopped accepting like behavior from other people that I would never do to them. Like, right? I got super, super strict with the kind of people I would be in my business, the kind of people I would work with, right? And not even just that, but like my boundaries, like the standards I have with my time. For example, like I don't take any calls on a Thursday anymore. Before it used to be like a shit show, like take calls whenever someone wants to do a call day off. Perfect, let's do it, right? Because I always saw it as the faster I can take
You
the
get that
call,
money.
the
Yeah.
faster I can make money. But really, I was teaching people to disrespect my time and that I'm always available. That's what I
Yeah.
was teaching people, and I didn't realize that. But now it's a different story. And so, like the fact that I have those things in my business, it translates over to my dating life. Like I have certain standards for, I'm not expecting like a guy to do all of these things, and I'm not going to uphold standards, like I uphold a certain standard for myself. And so the kind of people I date need to be upholding a certain standard for themselves and the kind of intention they have in dating, right? And like I've gotten super strict with it, especially even in this past week, like just to be open with you, like stop dating like 3 people this week, because I'm like, you're
Stop
just not.
dating 3 people this week?
Yeah, I'm like, last week even, I'm like, you're just not at the standard. No hard feelings, but you're just
I
like, you're
that's
just
not
not. We're not like you're not trying to date with the same intention that I am right now.
right, right. So wait, so when you say so in my American mind, when you say stop dating 3 people, that means in my mind you're dating 3 people simultaneously. But you're maybe saying like you went on a like a to eat or something, you're like, yo, I don't want to do this anymore. Or which how do you are you wording that?
What do you mean? So like I was.
Dating to me is like your boyfriend and girlfriend. Like you're like, yo,
No,
we're like in a
no, 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 no. I don't mean boy. No, definitely not boyfriend or
That's why
girlfriend.
I was like, damn, 3 people in a week.
No, that's not what I mean. I mean, like, I was going on dates with these people,
And you're just
right?
like, okay, I don't want to pursue this anymore. You're just like seeing
Exactly.
like kissing a lot of them. So let
Exactly.
me
Let me I'll just quickly finish this. But like the
no, yeah, go ahead.
reason relevant is because it's like so many people will stay in like situationships or like dating things hoping that it will get better, hoping that it will be the thing that they want it to be, right? They'll stay in it like hoping for this future outcome of this person that doesn't even exist to appear. And it
Right.
was the same with, like me and the business. Like I saw the highest version of himself and like who he could be in the business, and that's who I wanted him to be. That's who I kept believing he was, but then his actions were telling me a different story. And this is why people stay in things a lot longer than they should. It's because we want to see people for the highest version, first of all, because like we don't want to take the ego blow and like actually think, oh, this person isn't who we thought that they were, and then that's like a blow to our character judgment. So it's really an
Yeah.
ego thing by wanting to see person highest level. And it's the same with dating. It's like we put time into this person, we put some effort into this person. We think, oh, they've got potential. We start seeing like their good things. And so we fall in love with potential and then we feel like we're in too deep and then we never let go. But that's like you'll never find the right person if you're going like that. Like a big lesson this past like 12, 18 months is don't listen to people's words and what they tell you that they're gonna do. Like listen to people's actions and how they actually
100%.
show up for you. And I know people say that a lot, but it's one thing to say and it's another thing to actually do it. Like, is this guy telling you that he's gonna do all these things and he's gonna like take you on these dates and he's gonna show up in this certain way, but then he's always canceling plans last minute. He's never putting any thought into anything you're doing. Like he said he was gonna plan this date 20 minutes before you meet. You've still not been told a plan. Stuff like this. People will show you who they are. And once they've done that, like you don't need to like keep finding out if this person can be better and like do they really have potential. Like you just need to say no. You just need to leave and stop giving your energy to that. Because when you do and you uphold those standards, that's when you put the energy in your life to attract the better people, right? Because you're wasting so much time on these people like falling in love with their potential in all areas of your life. It goes to friendship, business partnerships, relationships, all areas of your life. You're spending so much time falling in love with people's potential and hoping they will become this certain person, and they never will, and it's taking away all this energy from who you could be pursuing. And I'm not saying people don't change, people do change, and I've changed a lot. But the thing is, most people do not change. Most people
Or
do
they
not
or they're gonna change on their own. Like you can't
change.
really force them.
Exactly. Like they change on their own timeline, they change of their own volition. Like if you told them to change, now they're definitely not going to change around you.
Yeah.
Like it's not going to happen. They need to do it because they decided that they wanted to, not because you said, "Oh, I want you to be like this," or even because you just hang around like hoping you're going to be the person to make them change. Like it doesn't work like that. You have to just be you, and the people that you're interacting with, are they showing up as you would like them? Are you showing up as a person worthy of that treatment? Okay? If both of those things are true, you can keep on going. But I think when people go wrong is like they expect the world from someone and they're not even like giving a high value themselves. So
Right.
then just like a mismatch of energy. And then another thing is they are giving high value, but they're accepting shit from someone else because they're falling in love with the potential. And now they end up unhappy. So it's like someone shows you, a few things of them not meeting the standard. Just move on. Like if this person is meant to be in your life, they will come back to you. Like you don't need to try and build them into something else. Like you really don't.
So the question is, and this is something I've struggled with too in the past, is like how do you go about setting these boundaries, right? Because I think for me personally, in the past it's been like, oh man, Olivia treated me this way, and I know that doesn't align with my values. But if I speak up about it, either it's going to come across as petty, or I make this person feel bad, or like you said, maybe she didn't mean it, or like that's my friend or whatever like that. I feel like a lot of people sometimes they think of it like that. Like, I don't want to be a dick, or I don't want to have like bad energy or negative energy, versus like this is really what I deserve, and this is just not. This isn't a good fit for me, a good situation. How do you go about? It, like, well, first let's talk about like friendship wise or dating wise. How do you go about setting those boundaries so like you go from being in the situation to maybe not?
Mhm. Well, there's a couple different things that, and it's going to depend like very much on the situation. It's going to depend on the situation. But another thing before I get more into that is like, if you yourself are not like showing up as someone as a high value person, right? If you're not making good on your commitments, you're not upholding like your end of the bargain, you're always going to have such a hard time having those conversations because you don't really believe you deserve it.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Effort on yourself, right? So I'll start with that. If you are not even doing that, like that's what you need to work on first. Because once you are doing that, it's going to become a lot easier for you to have these conversations because you're going to see very clearly you're doing these things. You deserve someone who is also playing the same game as you.
I like that.
So yeah, but it depends on the situation, right? I think a way to go about it is just, I mean, it depends if you can give me a specific example. Like,
Okay, so those three guys, do you just message them and be like, "Yo, all right, peace, bro. Like, I never want to see you again." Do you leave like a detailed message? Do you say we need to meet up for coffee and tell them like what? And maybe all of those are different, but like, how do you go about saying it? Do you go into detail? Do you just tell them like, "Hey, I appreciate the time, but this is not the good fit." Like, what does that look like?
okay, well, if you meet them in person, it's going to depend how far into the dating game you got, right? It's going to depend like how much effort was put in. But like, if you only been on a couple dates and you decided it wasn't for you, like I'll just give you an example from my life then. So, so this one guy recently, I decided I was going to stop seeing him. It was because, so I want someone that wants to date with intention, right? I want someone that wants to date with intention. And the first
Oh
couple
wait,
of dates,
when you say intention for you, that is that marriage? Like, what is that intention?
well, not necessarily marriage, but like I want to see that they, like I'm looking for like a proper relationship, right? Like I'm not just looking for random stuff. So I want to see that this person is like putting effort into the things that we're doing. Like I'm putting effort into it too, like the way that I'm showing up, like we're putting in effort. And so this guy, like we'd been on 2 dates, like we had really good conversation and whatever, like he seemed really cool. The first date was my idea, it was super casual. The second date was also super casual, and like we didn't even go anywhere. Like we just went to his place and like listened to music. Like nothing happened romantically. It was literally just like chilling. So then I hadn't seen him for a while, and I was like, I'm looking for a bit more intention behind a date. Like I'm looking for a guy that has
Yeah,
leadership as well. I'm looking for a guy that has leadership, and he'd not shown me any leadership so far. So I'm like, okay, this date is gonna be, we're going to see if he has any leadership, right? By this point, a self aware man that kind of wants to have leadership is going to kind of take the initiative to do something, bearing in mind the first 2 days have been super chill. So he says that, he's going to like find somewhere for us to eat and whatever.
wait,
And he
wait, wait,
doesn't,
wait, 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 wait. So, did you voice this to him, or you're just thinking this and then waiting to see what he does?
I'm waiting to see what he does
Okay, okay,
for
okay.
the,
All right, cool.
I'm waiting to see what he does.
So you're not like, yo, these first 2 days, bro, what happened? Like, what's going? All right, you're just kind of like, all right, this is
I'm
what's happening. Let me see where his mind's at.
Yeah, so like I'm not gonna, okay, so most of these guys I've met like on online dating, right? And so like the way that my profile is, you can tell that I'm trying to date someone with intention right here. Like I've written it in a specific way where it's meant to weed out time wasters and it's meant to attract people that are
It
looking for
says,
something.
bro, I graduated. What was it? First place.
No, it's not about that.
No, I'm just kidding.
If you ever saw my profile, it would make sense. But
All
I'm
right,
not
so
telling,
then the next date. So the next date.
just before I go into that, the secret like to any of this is like it's observing. It's observing other people's behavior, and then it's like giving them an opportunity to do good, but then also
Yeah.
just like seeing, is this just who they are, right?
Right,
So
right. without forcing it and being like, you should do this. Like, let me see what they would do on their own, and they'll tell me
I
with
didn't
their
tell him
actions.
to do anything. I wouldn't tell him to do anything. Like, I don't tell him to do anything. If we've been dating
Right,
a while, I might say, "Hey, I love it when you do X,"
right,
right?
right,
I
right.
mean,
Of
when
course.
you do this, like, "Oh, it makes me feel a certain type of way when you do this," but I'm never gonna tell them, like, "You need to do this or you need to do that," because, like, that's not I don't want that kind of relationship, right? So, I'm just seeing what he does. I'm like, "Oh," I said I kinda, like, put the onus on him to come up with a plan. So I'm like, "Oh, we're gonna see each other, like, what's the plan?" Basically, just putting the ball in his court. And he's like, "Oh, I'm not sure. I've just been, like, chilling and vibing a lot lately."
What kind of answer is
Flag,
that?
red flag. So so
Hey, I've just been chilling and vibing, baby.
yeah, so I'm like, okay." So I'm like, "We'll give him another chance. We'll give him another chance, see if we can come up with something." So a few days later, I'm like, "Oh, so what are we doing? Like, when are we meeting?" type of thing. And he's like, "Oh, I'm still looking into it." And I'm like, by this point, like, he's had almost 2 weeks to look into it, okay? And then it's like day before we're meant to meet up, and I'm like, "Oh,
Oh, so
just let
you
me."
guys already had, like, a day, like, you're supposed to meet up, and he's just, like,
Yeah, we
not
were meant
even
to meet
looking at
up.
anything.
Yeah, we were meant to meet up, like, let's say it was Saturday. We were meant to meet up on the Saturday. So I'm like, "Oh, like, what's the plan?" and whatever. And I
Oh, that's
asked
kinda
him.
annoying. I don't care if that's my mom, like, that's kind of annoying, like, "Bruh, like, come on now." Like, I don't have time for this.
Exactly,
Alright,
exactly.
alright,
So
I got you.
on the Friday, I'm like, "Well, what's the plan? Like, just wanna know timings and whatever." And he's like, "Oh, I'm still trying to come up with something creative." And I'm like, so I said to him, "I'm sure whatever you come up with will be great." Because I'm just, I'm trying to instill trust and confidence
Yeah,
into
yeah, yeah.
him. I know, like, men like it when you show them that you trust them, right? So, like, I'm like, "I'm sure whatever you come up with will be great." And then he's like, "Oh, I really appreciate your trust in me." And I'm like, "Just let me know what time, though. Like, I just want to know what time." And then he's like, "I got you." Doesn't tell me a time. Doesn't tell me a time. It gets to midday on Saturday. And I'm like, so I text him, like, "Is this an afternoon thing? Is it an evening thing?" And then he's like, "What would be better for you?" And I'm like, again, you can't make a decision. Like, this is what I'm thinking in my head. Like, you can't make a decision. You're putting the onus on me to come up with a decision of timing. Like, yes, maybe you're trying to be, like, thoughtful, what would work better for me, and, like, I appreciate that. But at the same time, based on our dating history so far, you haven't made any decisions.
Right, right,
And
right.
not bode well for a relationship because, like, I'm gonna need you to make some decisions. Like, we're
Fact.
gonna need to make decisions. And so if right now you can't even make decisions, it's not going well, right? So then I'm like, evening 6 p.m., like, whatever, I'll take some leadership effort. So I just tell him, like, evening leadership effort. I don't say leadership. I said, "Oh, the evening works good.
Okay,
Let's say 6
yeah.
p.m." The rest of it has been going on inside my head. And then he's like, "Perfect." Still doesn't tell me a time, doesn't tell me a place. It gets to 5 p.m. I've still heard nothing. And I'm like, this is real sus. And so then then I'm like, "Oh, can we actually make it like 6:30 or 7? Where are we going though? Like, I need to know how to dress. Like, I need to know how long it's going to take me to get there." And he's like, "Oh, I'm still looking at places." He doesn't reply until 20 to 6, and we're originally meant to meet at 6. And he's like, "I'm still looking at places near you." And then he says, "What's your address?" And so I just thought at this point, like, we're just not, he's not going to give me what I'm looking for right now. Like, he's not got the leadership effort I'm looking for.
Right,
Even a
right.
friend, I wouldn't even tolerate this from a friend, So what I'm thinking here is, like, leadership effort, lack of decision making, also just lack of intention. Because if you really like someone, you're at least going to give them a plan the day before, like, bare minimum. You're going to tell them where you need to go and what time the day before, because it's just disrespectful to expect someone to
Just drop
come
everything
up,
they do in, like, 2
drop
seconds.
everything at the same time. So I'm just like, this guy is just not for me. So I just said, "Hey, unfortunately, I'm gonna have to cancel tonight. I'm just looking to date someone with a bit more intention than coming up with the plan like 20 minutes before we're due to meet." And I said, "It's nothing personal. It's just what I'm looking for in dating right now." That's what I said, pretty much
We
word
all
for
love
word.
that. I love that. I think, like, before, the way I would have seen that, maybe not as if you did it to me, but the way I would have seen it, if I was in your shoes, is like, "Oh, what is he gonna think?" Or, like, I'm being petty because, like, "Oh, you didn't pick the date, like, on the time, then now I just don't wanna hang out with you," and, like, that's, like, so petty, Versus now, the way that I see it is like, I feel like, let's say if I was you, right? It's like, I plan on, if we're in a relationship, like bringing a lot of value to this like relationship. And I feel like if you appreciate hanging out with me, the least you can do is you should be like, so excited to hang out with me that you can like at least pick a place like a couple days before, or at least communicate with me. And if you can't do that, I truly believe that there's somebody else out there that will do it. I think a lot of
Exactly.
people, like you were saying, aren't willing to say that about themselves. Maybe they feel like it's not being humble or it's too cocky or whatever. I don't know what how to word that, but I feel like it's okay. Like you're not like being outlandish where you're like, yo, this guy didn't take me to Ruth Chris. Like, how dare he have me just listen to music? You're just like, yo, this is my standard. Like, I just want to have communication. I want a leader. And if that's not you, then that's okay. And the thing that I like about that is like you verbalized it rather than just being like, all right, this isn't a fit. I'm just gonna leave him on red and he can figure it out, like maybe on his own time. What happened is like you figured it out, you verbalized it, moved on.
Mhm. Yeah, like I'm all about super clear communication, and I'm not, I'm not expecting crazy stuff. I'm not asking for the world here. Like I did definitely enjoy the first two dates with him. I think he is a great guy. Like we actually had a lot in common, and we would definitely get on as friends, right? It's not like he needs to take me to a fancy restaurant or whatever, but it's like I need to know this thought going on behind what you're doing.
Yeah.
Like I
I mean,
need to know
imagine
that
if
you.
I did that to you. It's like, yo, you want to be on the podcast? And you're like, all right, like when are you thinking? And I'm like, oh, I'll look into it. And then you're like, all right, like what day? And it's like, I'm thinking of it. It's like, what time? And it's like 10 minutes before we're supposed to go on. I'm like, oh, I'll look into it. It's like clearly you don't really value me as being on a guest. So you know what? Just I appreciate the invite, but I'm just gonna go do something else.
Exactly. And I think a lot of people have a hard time with, say, like doing what I just did because they're afraid that better isn't out there or like they don't deserve better. And second, they
Yes.
haven't they haven't been exposed to better. So maybe they've seen friends with better, but they personally haven't had a better experience. And so
It's
it's
a
so hard
scarcity
for them
mindset.
to go. Pardon?
It's a scarcity mindset, and I think that's what I had to change. It's like this is the only client that's going to pay me this money right now. I have to close this deal, and it's like this is the only guy in Chicago that's going to. It's like, bro, relax. If you and that's what I like how you said before. You can't just be on this like, oh, there's better out there for me and people that are going to treat me better. Or there's better clients. If one, you have a business that is just garbage, like because then it's like you need to fix that, or you're not
Mhm.
treating people good. And that's where I think a lot of people mess up. But it's like if you are providing a ton of value, like it's going to be out there for you. And I also tell like a lot of my female friends is like you also have to be okay with it not being out there though. You can't just like, oh, well, it might be hard to find it. So now you're just dropping all your standards just so you're not alone. It's like, I get that too, but it's like, have your, as long as it's like we're saying, it's not land. It's like, oh, he has to take me to, to eat at $1,000 restaurant, but it's like a acceptable thing. Like, hey, I just want someone that's going to respect me and have leadership. And you know that you're bringing the value. I think it's almost disrespectful to yourself to just like that's how you feel like you're gonna treat yourself. Like anyone could just message you at any time and let's meet, and they're not taking it serious. While there's other people out here that would definitely treat you better than that.
Right, exactly. And like I'll give you a few more quick examples just to kind of demonstrate the point, like what has happened before and like what I have now. So like a friendship one, I used to have friends that would like cancel on me like 10 minutes before we were meant to meet. I've had friends that I've been at the place and they canceled on me as well.
Oh
Right?
no 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 no.
Shit like that. I've had shit like that. And I still was friends with this person for
Same
like
same.
1 2 years more. I was still friends with this person. Now I have friends like my texted me. She texted our group chat. I think it was yesterday with a full itinerary of what we're doing tonight for Halloween. Never would have had that from the other friends. Never in a
Bro,
million years. The plan's been made, for like a couple weeks, so we were always going to go to hers for Halloween. But she's made like a full itinerary and told us, what we need to do, where we need to be, the different timings of the different activities, like all stuff like that. And it's like I never would have got a friend like that if I was still clinging on to these friends that were just showing me that they didn't respect
amen.
me as
Yep.
you know? And it's just like with those friends, when I stopped being friends with them, like they were mainly high school friends. And so like I wasn't as good at communicating now, or like I just kind of drifted. So I'm more like drifted away from those friends. But like now I'll just straight up tell someone, right? I'll just say, hey, look, I'm not really looking to be friends with people that just like don't show up when we had a commitment without letting me know in advance. Like if you had an emergency, I totally understand, But like if this is just your standard way of operating, like I'm just not looking for friends like that right now. And like
Yeah,
people won't like it because you're pointing stuff out, but at the end of the day, like it's the fucking truth. It's the
yeah,
fucking
it is. And I think like you said, it's like it's you're not going to be happy if you don't. You know what I mean? And that's eventually what's going to happen, or what's happened in my personal experience is you don't say anything, cool. Meet up again, they cancel. You don't say anything, meet up again, they cancel. A year goes by, a month goes by. One day you're so pissed that you went all the way out there that you just blow up on them, and there's like almost no way of recovering that relationship. So
exactly.
I'm a
And then
big fan of like I'm a big fan of like you have to have that energy in the beginning. Like I had a friend that was like that one time. Like they would always like, yo, all right, we're gonna pick you up, and they would show up like super like they like we'd be waiting outside, and they would like wait, like they would make us wait like a long time. And I told them like, bro, like I don't like that. To me, I was like disrespectful. At least answer your phone and be like, yo, I'm gonna be out in like 5 minutes. When I'm calling you, texting you, don't reply, like it's mad disrespectful. So one time we were picking them up, and he was with his girlfriend, and I remember like they're like the same thing, like, oh, give us like 5 minutes. 5 minutes turned into 10 minutes. And I told my friend, I'm like, bro, I'm gonna just leave. So we just left. And then like an hour later, they showed up to the same place. They're like, oh, you that's messed up. Like you guys left us or whatever. And I was like, I know that you feel like that's messed up, but I can guarantee you this: that next time that I'm waiting for you, you're never gonna make me wait again. And they never have ever. You know what I mean? And I think sometimes people you have to I always tell people like there's people are always going to say like, well, that's how that person is. So either that can be you or that can be them. Either you can say, well, that's just how Olivia is. She's always 5 minutes late. Or you can say, well, that's just how D is. If you're 5 minutes late, he's not gonna be there when you when you get there. So I'm like someone setting the standards, someone setting the boundaries, either it can be you or it can be them.
yeah, and it's just a justification for getting out of an awkward conversation. That's all it is. You don't want to have the awkward conversation, so you're trying to justify it, you
Yeah,
know? And
yeah, yeah.
like some people when you have that conversation with, like say if I've been friends with someone a long time and then they start doing like crazy shit like that, I'll just say, hey, like, you know, it made me feel some type of way when you were 30 minutes late. It just made me feel like you say they did it a few times. Like if I'm really good friends with someone, they do it once, like I'll kind of just wipe it off to, you know, they're having a bad day. And usually they'll explain themselves, like if they're a
Yeah,
good
yeah,
friend. If it happens a few times, just say, hey, this has been happening a lot. It's just making me feel like a little bit disrespected on my time. So, like, what's going on here? Is there anything that I can help you with? You know, if you come from a stance of like seeking to understand, like, is there something I can help you with? They're usually going to apologize and then immediately they're going to do better. But if someone
yeah.
gets annoyed from you acting like that, like they were never really meant to be your friend in the first place.
I
It's
agree. I say the same all the time.
yeah, for me, it's like the acid test. If you tell them how you're feeling and your boundary, a real friend will apologize and they will try and do better. And they will also call you out on your bullshit, which is great because now you get to be better, right?
Yeah,
But a bad friend will get
be
annoyed, they'll
offended.
get defensive,
Yeah.
and then they won't be your friend anymore, which is also perfect. You know, and the thing is that you were saying earlier is like if you don't say anything and then ages, you let it blow up. Now you look like the crazy one when all you
Yeah,
have
because
to
like you never had an issue with me showing up late before, and now all of a sudden you're too good. You moved to Chicago, and I can't show. It's like, no, that's not even the reason.
yeah, like all you had to do was communicate, you know, and I think that so many people struggle with how to communicate. But the thing is, it's like you can learn. I didn't always used to communicate like this. I used to get like pissed off and passive aggressive, but I've done a lot of like personal development courses now and I've done actual specific communication ones. So
Well, if
I
they're
was
listening to this, they learn it right now. Hopefully.
yeah. So I'll just voice it. And like another thing with a guy I was talking to for a while, you know, he always kept saying like he was gonna come see me and like we were gonna do these things, and it just got to the point where like he just kept he kept saying he was gonna do it and then he never did it. And I was like, look, you know, I've really enjoyed chatting with you and whatever, but like this isn't what I'm looking for. Like I'm looking for someone that wants to come through on their commitments. So it's probably best like we don't talk anymore. Right? Like I'm not even being mean. Like I'm just pointing out the facts and just saying, hey, that doesn't work for me. Right. And then usually like they'll come back up. They come this happens all the time. It's like I'll say something like that to them and then they'll come back up like with this whole different energy. But it's like I'm not
if
entertaining you.
if they're like an understanding friend, the people that have that negative energy, it just shows like we weren't meant to like be
Yeah,
friends
yeah,
anymore.
yeah, yeah. But sometimes, like with the guys, especially, I see like you'll tell them immediately, it hurts their ego because they don't want to think that they were like that, and they'll kind of go and think about it and they won't say anything, and then they'll come back like weeks later and they'll try and give you this different energy, but it's like, I moved on now, like that's it.
I appreciate the effort, but you messed it up, and your window has been closed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But the thing
Yeah.
is, it's like a lot of people. This is an issue with like today. A lot of people will ghost. A lot of people will just leave you on red and stop talking to you. But I'm a big believer. Like if you go around doing that to people, you're gonna get people doing that to you. You're
Mm-hmm.
gonna get people doing that to you. And like if you don't want that, which I know no one wants that. No one wants to be ghosted. I don't care what I've done. I would rather you tell me, so at least then I can see if there's truth in it and work on it versus you just ghosting me. Right? So
Right.
it's like just do some of the common courtesy of having a fucking honest conversation. Like that's what we're missing these days. So
So with that being said, what is like your vision like behind the business? Like what is like keeps you motivated like through all this, dealing with all this, setting these boundaries, knowing your self-worth? Like what's your vision for your business? And like what's your like I guess like people say like the why behind the what?
the why. So I think it all comes back to, so the reason I got into entrepreneurship was because like I always kind of saw it as like the battleground of personal development. I always saw it as like you become an entrepreneur, you have to like weed out all these like ineffective traits in your personality. You have to like weed out all of the things that have been holding you back so you can become this like better version of yourself. And that's why I started it. Like that's why I wanted to do it, and that's why like I'm still here, because I see everything as just like making me a better person and like becoming who I want to be. So that's what, keeps me motivated, I would say. But also, like wanting to actually like make a difference with my business. I think that there are so many entrepreneurs that so many people just focus on marketing and sales, and like, I do sales, I do marketing. It's obviously important, but marketing and sales will get you money in the door, but it's not going to get you a real business. It's not going to get you a real business, especially in like the coaching industries and agency industries. People are relying so much on their skills of marketing and sales to make them money, but it's like burning out their business, and it's also
Instead they should be focusing on
instead you should like focus on like, focus on oh my god, focus on marketing and sales in the beginning, but then you need to dial in your operations. You need to learn how to build a team, you need to learn how to delegate, you need to learn how to get systems that run without you. Like you need to know how to produce sales and fulfill on those sales without you. And like, as a coach you might still want to be involved. Like I still want to be involved, I still want to do group programs that I lead, I still want to
yeah.
do one coaching with my clients, things like that. But something that I'm going to start doing pretty soon is I'm going to do like done for you system builds. So I'm going to go into your business and like build out your whole onboarding process. I'm going to build out all the automations and SOPs in your sales and marketing process. I'm going to help you systemize the processes behind what's going on, because people see operations as this like one distinct department, but they got it all messed up. Operations is like the backbone of all your other departments. So people say like marketing, sales, operations, and fulfillment. That's not actually how, that's not the best structure to have for your business. You should see it as marketing, sales, fulfillment, and finance. And then operations is the system that
For all of
each,
those.
it's the
Yeah.
system that each process is working on. Because like a lot of people think sales and they think, okay, I'm just gonna like do this thing, the entrepreneur is just gonna do this thing, like bring in some cash. No, you actually need like a whole process behind making the sale, and then you can bring someone on to run that process, or several people. Same with marketing, same with managing your finances, same with fulfilling for the clients, right? And then all those things together work. And then really there's another segment. So there's like the actual step-by-step systematic process of getting the result. And then there's the thought process behind why it works, right? Because anyone can post on social media, but doesn't mean that they're going to get clients. It's a thought process behind how you're posting that gets you the clients. And that's also why a
Right.
lot of systems fail, because they're making a system just to like delegate content creation, but they're not delegating a system that works and is super effective and teaching their team how to think, right? That's how you really build a business. You teach your team how to think. So I always add that element into my systems. But then the other section is your hiring. So you need like really another department, which is like your HR hiring department. And that is like bringing in candidates to fill in all these other departments. And that's how you scale. That's how you keep growing your business. So that's what keeps me motivated, is just like seeing a lot of people that are just, I understand like marketing and sales is sexy. Like it's made you your money. It's like developed who you are as an entrepreneur. But if you want to get to the next level, you're going to have to start developing your business in this way. And this is actually going to give you the time and money freedom that you want. Because, yeah, like me, you might still want to work in your business in some parts. Like, I still like to write a lot of my content. I like to do delivery. I like to do my one on one stuff. But you want to have the option to do it. Like you want to be doing it by choice. You're not going to be
Right,
doing you
right.
feel like you have to, and there's probably a lot of other things in your business that you don't need to be doing right now, but you are, because you haven't actually developed this system around it. And again, it's like you can still delegate your way entirely out of a coaching business. I'm not saying that's like the best way to go about it, but like if you want to, you can, and say, like I said, I'm going to start doing these done for you operations things. So like I'm going to do the first few myself. This is
Systematize
also,
it, you can have someone else do it.
yeah, exactly. Like I'll still do like the initial consultation call for a while. Like I'll get on with an entrepreneur, I'll look into their business, I'll see, right, we need this system here, this system there, this system there. And I will build out the whole process. I'll build out the automations. I'll actually do it into their business and I'll test it out. But after a while, like a lot of systems crop up the same. So I can have someone go build out the automations for me. And then any differences in the thought process, differences in their niche that need to be like properly conveyed and taught and built into SOP, like I will do that until, I can hire someone high level to train them
Right.
on that thought process.
Yep.
I'm always thinking like I'm not I'm not the only person that can understand these concepts. Do you know what I mean? I think a lot of business owners, they think I'm the
Like I'm the
only
only one in
person
the
that,
whole world that could ever do this, and it's like no.
yeah, it's like no, like if you can understand this concept, it means everyone else can understand it too. What you need to do is learn how to teach other people to understand it. You need to teach other people how to think like you. So yeah, that's what I'm passionate about, what keeps me motivated.
So
There's a lot.
how can people connect with you? Like if they're like, all right, cool, like I need help with this, like I like your energy, I like what you're talking about. How can they like connect with you and learn more like about what you're doing?
The best place would be on Instagram. If you're not on Instagram, you can get me on Facebook as well.
Are you gonna let us know the name or
Yeah. So
if you
my
can't find me, that's not the type of people I'm looking for now.
my Instagram is it's Olivia Parkes and it's Parkes. So a lot of people miss the E. And then Facebook, my name is just Olivia Parkes. So yeah, I can also post the links. I don't know, like if you'll have a cap. Are you
Yeah,
putting this
yeah.
on like
I'll post the links in like the description on
yeah.
YouTube and also on um like the podcast as well. So like
Mhm.
what if people are like, all right, like I heard enough. Like yeah, I want to connect with you and I'll follow you, but like I want to like for real work with you. I need these systems. Like what's the best way for them to go about doing that?
I would just DM me and say, hey, I've come from Dee's podcast. I want help with XYZ. And then I'll get you that help. I'll get you
Use
that
the
help.
use the promo code in the description box for 20% off. Now, just kidding. So basically, if they want to just follow you and see what you're doing, follow you on Instagram or Facebook. But if they really want to like work with you, become a client, get help with the systems, everything you talked about, send you a message first, and then from there you will walk them through the process. For it.
Exactly. Yeah. Send me a message. Tell me you come from Dee's podcast. And there's a couple different options right now. So I have my Smart Business program, which is starting at the end of November. And it's going to be a group program, 6 weeks held live. And you'll have access to all of the recordings. But essentially, I'm going to teach you how to design your business to be smart. Because, like so many people, we get caught up in working hard or even working smart. But if you're working smart inside of a business that like isn't really giving you freedom, you just have more hours to work hard. right? Like it's not actually solving the problem of designing your business to be profitable, to design it to be, giving you more free time. So I'm going to walk you through how to design your time, your money, your systems, and your team. So I'm going to walk you through everything that I do inside of these businesses, and I'll show you how to apply it to yours. And it's going to be like you have to have your own initiative and stuff. You have to come to the trainings. You have to actually implement yourself. But that's going to be happening next month. So if you want to do that, that's like probably the most affordable thing I have right now. If you
What
want
if
to
they
join.
listen to this like after like November? Are you gonna keep doing those?
Oh, okay. Well, you can buy it if you're watching this. You can buy it after the fact. I'm gonna do it live again, so I'll probably run this like once every 6 months or once a quarter. But if you've come from this podcast and you really want it, you can DM me and I will give it you. So it's gonna be full price 3,000. But if you come from this podcast, you can join it for 1,500.
Is
So
that 3K to like go through it live, or that's like to buy the recordings?
you'll buy the recording, and then
Oh,
if you want to do the next live round, then you would get a discount on the next live round.
so basically, if you guys are listening to this, DM Olivia and ask her, hey, is it still open? If it's open, you can just join and go through it live, which would be a lot better. Like you get to ask questions and there's more personalized. Or if not, I guess you could say, hey, well, we just closed up, or the next one isn't for 6 months, but here's the recording, and then they could buy that. And that's the
Yeah,
more like if you're looking for a way of getting taught the information, and maybe having a little support, but you still have to do it, the implementation yourself. But then you have another offer where you're doing it for them.
yeah. So there's three main ways to work with me, right? There's that program, and then there's working with me one-on-one. So this is when I'll give you coaching, and I'll also do some of the systems for you. So one-on-one, it's like you have voice note access to me. We'll have a call once every 2 weeks. Like we'll get really in deep into your business. I'll help you refine all your strategies. I will actually put systems and automations in place inside your business, which most people don't do when they're working one-on-one with someone, but like it's really what's required to get you the
I
result.
like that.
Because like yeah, because like as an entrepreneur, especially as like the visionary, the founder, you don't really have time to be figuring out all these automations yourself, like figuring out what's the best. Like you don't want to be. You want someone that's experienced and knows what they're doing to be like, okay, hey, this is the best solution for your business. Let me implement it right away for you. Right. So that's essentially, I do that in combination with my one-on-one because I know people, they want the strategy, they want the mindset from me. They want to like help them go through all these challenges, say like as they're hiring and stuff like that. But then they also want like the systems, they want to get that back. So that's my one-on-one. If you want to do that, like DM me and say you want to do one-on-one. And then the other thing is you just want me to build out a few systems. And we'll build out a couple of systems, say like your client onboarding, like content stuff, whatever's taking up most of your time. We'll go and build a system around that and have a 72-hour turnaround on that once you give me all the information. So yeah, the
That's
price will
dope.
depend on how many systems you want. But yeah.
Yeah. So Olivia Parkes, Parkes, on IG or Facebook, send a message. Let her know you listen to the podcast. She'll give you the American discount. Um, Anything else that you want to add before we hop off here?
I'm just thinking, is there anything else I want to add?
Business, personal, anything for the guys that are listening that maybe are like, no, I'm just kidding.
Well, I mean, for the guys, if you know that you want to date a girl properly, like make sure that you're showing the intention, right? Because it does go a long way with girls. But again, for the ladies, it's like, don't just say you want an amazing man. Don't just say that. Like, who are you? Who are you showing up as? And I'm not saying you need to be like some really career driven woman or like you look at me and you see I'm successful in business and whatever. Like, it's not necessarily about that. It's about like, do you show up with good positive energy? Do you show initiative on some things? Like, are you fun? Do people actually want to be around you? Like, can you hold a good conversation? Are you funny? Is your life interesting and exciting? Right? Like, do you have cool hobbies? Do you take care of yourself? Do you eat well? Do you go to the gym? Do you have other passions? Like stuff like that, which anyone can do.
Right, 100%.
You just have to like make yourself an interesting person. Just read books, And like if you're watching this and you haven't started anywhere, read books. Read books.
So before we hop off here, what are like maybe 2, 3 books that you would say someone's like, all right, read books and then they're like gonna pull up Google or whatever and like go read Dr. Seuss. Is like instead, what are the like 2 or 3 books that you're like, all right, go start with these?
I would say read A Happy Pocket Full of Money. I have that
I've
on
never
my.
even heard of that.
Yeah, read it. I would recommend it. So I read that one actually earlier this year, but I wish I had read that book years
What is it?
ago.
A happy pocket full of money?
Yeah, that's it.
What's it
Yeah.
about? Obviously, like I kind of get the title, but like what's it like about?
I'd say like this way to describe it is like the science behind manifestation. So it's like the science behind how you can attract more wealth into your life. But it's like if you've ever read any Joe Dispenza stuff, so he talks about like, quantum physics and time and stuff like that, but it kind of breaks down time not being real and why like a lot of people create like the distance between them and this future outcome that they want because they think that time needs to pass. Yeah. But
This
really, yeah, that's the book. But really, so quantum physics says that all realities are currently happening right now, like simultaneously, right? And they all have a different energy and like frequency. They have all the different like frequency of energy. So the bad outcomes, like say you're broke as fuck, like all of this stuff, they got like a really low vibrational energy and it's like scarcity. But then it's like you being so wealthy, like love of your life, like doing all these amazing things that you want, it's like a really high energy. And so the difference between you getting there is raising your energy to be a vibrational match for the state because like we attract the same vibration that we are. So if
right.
you can raise your vibration, you're actually just going to attract that possibility in the quantum field towards you. And it sounds like woo woo, but it's actually science. Like take it from a girl with a science degree. Like this is actually science.
And 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 also like try it. Like a lot of people ask me, I'm like, bro, like there's a lot of stuff that I've heard like that. I literally tried it and it works. And the people that are always like, it's like, but your life is negative. So like you're proving the point too. So all right, pocket full of money, a happy pocket full of money, maybe like what's one more or 1 or 2 more that you would say? Because I never even heard of that one. That was a good recommendation.
I'd say the code of the extraordinary. Oh my god, the code of the extraordinary mind.
You're
Uh,
pointing out something I've never even heard of.
yeah, I like to read some abstract books. And then I would also say, what else would I say? I
10
would say,
unconventional laws to redefine your life and succeed on your own terms.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's good. It's good. And then other ones, I mean, I have more, like I could give you a whole list, but I would also say what's useful is to just read autobiographies.
I've
Read
heard that.
autobiographies of other successful people, like other entrepreneurs, whatever, even if you don't like them. Like even if you don't like them and you don't agree like with their political stance or whatever, because you also need to train yourself to like not get triggered when you're reading stuff you don't like. You need to learn to right? Like so many people
That's
say like
fair.
if they don't like Donald Trump, they would never read Donald Trump's autobiography. But the thing is like you also can't deny like the guy has done some like impressive business
Of
things.
course. Yeah, it's like
Right?
learn, take out the bad and learn the good, and then mix that in with your life.
Exactly. So even if you don't like certain entrepreneurs, like if you don't like Michael Bloomberg, I remember I read like Michael Bloomberg's autobiography like several years ago now, and now, like a lot of people say they don't like Michael Bloomberg. Why I never lived in America at the time, so like I don't know too much about why people don't like him or whatever. But you have to read things from a perspective of okay, what can I learn from this? What can I learn about how they think that I can apply to my life? What can I take the good bits, but then I can also ignore the bad bits because I don't need to agree with everything everyone says to be able to learn something from them. If
Right.
you always need to agree with everything everyone says to be able to learn something from them, you're gonna have a very hard time. You're gonna have a very hard time. So that's what I would say. Read the autobiography, see what you can learn, but also train yourself to learn things from people you don't like.
I definitely agree with that. Well, yo, I appreciate you coming on here. When we end, it's gonna keep you in here so we can like chat afterwards. Always. Sometimes I
Okay.
forget to tell people that. But no, I appreciate you coming on here. I appreciate. I think the first time we met in person was in London, but I think we
Mhm,
had just connected on IG before that, right?
mhm, yeah, we had. Yeah.
Well, it's just always been like dope energy. I always also appreciate like being around people in general, but I think if you're an entrepreneur, it's easy to be around like men that are thinking at like not every man is thinking at this level, but that are reading these books and doing these. But it's always nice to be around like other women that are doing this too. I think like a lot of issues in the world could be solved with like more women understanding like their value and going out to seek it, but also like you said, bringing value, not just like expecting it, but bringing
Mhm.
value and then saying no to the things that are not a good fit and then like moving on. So I've always appreciate how you did that, and then like I think this is going to help a lot of other people do that too. So um, I definitely appreciate you coming on here and sharing some wisdom.
Yeah, you're welcome. Well, I definitely hope that it does help people. I think the biggest thing I've learned is like life will rise and fall to meet the standards you hold, right? So the personal standards you hold, the standards of people you let into your life. So if this is one thing you take away from this, I would say that's it. Like the minute you decide that you're gonna have higher standards, or even we don't even rise to meet like our highest goals. We meet our lowest standards. So if you make your lowest standard high, you're gonna see your reality change.
Facts. There you have it. Appreciate you coming on.
Thank you for having me.